Hello everyone, and welcome to the Barbarian class version in our series. And let me just go and start off by saying that the Barbarian has always been an extremely solid class in D&D, a frontliner that can really tank with his very unique and kind of core identity class feature of the Rage. And honestly, Wizards of the Coast in with the Unearthed Arcana, the 2024 finalized version, they had done a lot of good adjustments, a good overhaul of the class, and I really gotta say I didn't do too much to this class. This class has always been pretty solid, and ultimately, I mean, I just tweaked a couple things here and there. I had a couple things that I thought were necessary. Made sure that the capstone feature, the 20th level for the class, was really just a solid reward for reaching the max level in the class. And so outside of that, not too much, but we'll definitely run it all through here, see what's changed, see what's been adjusted since 2014 especially. And yeah, let's go and jump into it. All right, just real quick, the big kind of image you see here on the screen is going to be my document from the Homebrew. The smaller one, kind of right above me, is going to be the Unearthed Arcana PDF that I have, and then I'll obviously be referencing some other stuff that I found over the course of YouTube videos and whatnot. And then I do have the 2014 Player's Handbook right next to me as well, just so we can kind of see everything that's been adjusted and changed over the course of time, and kind of where this finalized version that I've kind of brought together here has kind of stands. So all right, so first things first, the table right here is going to just list everything in terms of features, level, everything. The biggest differences here are going to be the fact that rages do cap out at 6 instead of unlimited. In the 2014 version, it was unlimited at 20th level, but now it's kind of capped out to a 6, which I've left unchanged from the most recent edition of Barbarian. Rage damage, I did actually increase to cap out at a +5 instead of just a +4. And then weapon masteries have been added to this class, starting at 2 and ending at 4 as well. And so, continuing on here, hit points remain unchanged in terms of a D12. Proficiencies are still strength and con. Skills, it's the same list as before. Tools, none. Armor, same. Weapons are going to be the same. So, equipment, I have changed it to what was introduced in the Unearthed Arcana, and I'm sure it's still the same as the 2024. But they did kind of give you either a gold amount or equipment that you can just kind of choose from, or you can just have instead of spending the gold on your own. And so I left that there to make it a little bit easier for newer players or for character creation. But let's go ahead and dive into this the overall class features here. So level 1 Rage, the most iconic portion of the Barbarian, is you can imbue yourself with a primal power that is called your Rage, a force that grants you extraordinary might and resilience. You can enter it as a bonus action, provided you aren't wearing heavy armor. While active, your Rage has the following effects: damage resistance, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Rage damage, when you make an attack with a weapon using strength or an unarmed strike and deal damage to the target, you gain a bonus to the damage that increases as you gain levels as a Barbarian, as shown in the Rage damage column of the Barbarian table. Strength advantage, you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. No concentration or spells, you can't maintain concentration, and you can't cast spells. The Rage lasts until the end of your next turn, and it ends early if you don heavy armor or have the incapacitated condition. If your Rage is still active on your next turn, you can extend the Rage for another round by doing one or more of the following: make an attack roll against the enemy, force the enemy to make a saving throw, take a bonus action to extend your Rage. Each time the Rage is extended, it lasts until the end of your next turn. You can maintain a Rage for up to 10 minutes. You can enter your Rage the number of times shown for your Barbarian level in the Rage column of the Barbarian table. You regain 1 use of your Rage when you finish a short rest, and regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So, one of the most iconic, identifying pieces of the Barbarian here is going to be the Rage. And honestly, Wizards of the Coast has done a good job in kind of adjusting this in certain ways that make it more viable and just easier to use, and honestly just makes it a lot better. And so the most notable things is a lot of the resistance, damage resistance, rage damage, strength advantage, no concentration. That's all pretty much the same as 2014, but they have adjusted the stipulations in which you actually maintain your rage here. So before, it used to be that you either attacked an enemy or you took damage, and so which are pretty obnoxious in certain capacities. And so now they made it so it's just if you make an attack roll against the enemy, making a saving throw against the enemy, forcing them to do so, also prolongs your rage. Or you can just extend it with a bonus action, which is super awesome, super versatile, because, you know, that lets you that frees up your turn so that way you can do other things, maybe interacting in the combat encounter, or just interacting in an encounter in general that you might need to do that's outside of just, you know, being a frontliner. This makes it so that you can do a lot more on your turn, but still keep that rage active. And then additionally, instead of 1 minute, it is now 10 minutes, which is a massive buff. And actually that ties into another feature that we'll get to in a little bit. Additionally, and I've noticed this across a couple of the other classes as well, is you now regain 1 use of your rage whenever you finish a short rest. Whereas before, it was you had to finish a long rest to regain any sorts of expenditures for this feature. And so I really like that they've actually added into some of these various features that you regain 1 on a short rest. They're adding things into kind of across the board that on a short rest you do benefit outside of just getting some hit points back. Because, you know, there's a lot of different classes that do awesome things on a bonus or on a short rest. But adding this in so where you at least can get a charge back definitely makes short rests more viable, and kind of gives everybody an opportunity to benefit from them instead of just certain classes. So that's super cool. Additionally, at level 1, unarmored defense, while you aren't wearing any armor, your base armor class equals 10 plus your dexterity and constitution modifiers. You can use a shield and still gain this benefit. Unchanged, but also is still very good. Level 1 weapon mastery. Your training with weapons allows you to use the mastery property of 2 kinds of weapons of your choice with which you have proficiency in. Whenever you gain a barbarian level, you can replace one of your weapon mastery choices with a different one. When you reach certain barbarian levels, you gain the ability to use the mastery properties of more kinds of weapons, as shown in the weapon mastery column of the barbarian table. Super awesome. I do love the weapon mastery's whole kind of system that they added into D&D. With this latest, you know, update in 2024, super awesome. I like that it kind of gives marshals a lot more versatility and a lot more options out within combat, and, you know, making it just so that they, you know, they kind of have this unique feature for being, you know, really for having reached a certain prowess with certain weapons. Really cool. I will say one difference that I did is in the Unearthed Arcana, as well as I believe the finalized version in 2024, they make it so that you can change your mastery on a long rest. I do it so that every barbarian level is when you can adjust. You can adjust one of those masteries. I did that so that there's still flexibility in case maybe you're just not necessarily vibing with the weapon anymore. But I made it so it's a little bit longer between those changes, but it's still an option to do so going forward as you progress. Because I didn't really just want to make it so you could just basically cycle through all the weapons at any point in time. I really wanted to make it feel like these weapons that your character has mastery in is because of, you know, a prolonged use. And so just to be able to switch them at, you know, any given moment just kind of felt counterproductive to RP, and also just the fact that, you know, kind of took away a little bit of that I would say RP is probably the biggest thing, biggest explanation as to why I did that. But moving on, danger sense at level 2, you gain uncanny sense of when things aren't as they should be, giving you an edge when you dodge perils. You have advantage on dexterity saving throws, provided you don't have the incapacitated condition. They had changed it. This is essentially the same from 2014, but Wizards of the Coast changed it from you can now get this even if you are blinded or deafened. Because before there were some stipulations. Now you can do it no matter what unless you're incapacitated. So a good change there. Reckless attack, level 2, you can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with fierce desperation. When you make your first attack roll on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly. Doing so gives you advantage on attack rolls using strength until the start of your next turn, but attack rolls against you have advantage during that time. Unchanged from 2014. So continuing on, level 3, Barbarian subclass. You get a Barbarian subclass of your choice. Same as 2014 as well. So, but this is a super cool feature that WotC has added in. Level 3, you get Primal Knowledge. You gain proficiency in another skill of your choice from the list of skills available to barbarians at level 1. Super awesome. Getting more proficiencies is always a good thing. Makes you know, your character feel more versatile across the board. In addition, while your rage is active, you can channel primal power when you attempt certain tasks. Whenever you make an ability check using one of the following skills, you can make it as a strength check even if it is normally used as a different ability. Acrobatics, Intimidation, Perception, Stealth, or Survival are on that list. When you use this ability, your strength represents primal power coursing through you, honing your agility and senses. Honestly, super, super awesome. You can see that's actually, as it's already, you know, kind of outlined here as well in the Unearthed Arcana. But such a cool way to expand the Barbarian outside of just combat kind of focused. You know, in terms of the rage. The rage now can be utilized in exploration, can be utilized, you know, in RP, can be utilized in a lot more fun, unique ways. And I think that the list that they have there all kind of work in ways that, you know, it can be explained. And as a DM, you can kind of, you know, story tell that in a pretty simple way. I wouldn't say it's pushing the, you know, the bounds too great there. And this is kind of one of those things I feel like a lot of people did homebrew. The fact that you could use intimidation as a strength ability instead of as a charisma ability. And so I think that they just kind of leaned into that and really expanded upon it, making it super awesome. And I do think that that is just a good way to make the Barbarian feel not so combat heavy as a class. You can now do some things outside and use your resources outside of just, you know, hitting everyone and being mad. Just, you know, in the sense of taking damage. And this is also really good, and this is probably why they adjusted the 1 minute rage to the 10-minute rage. Now you can, you know, you have a longer duration to be able to utilize this. So honestly, super awesome. Level 4 is just going to be the ability score improvement, unchanged. Level 5 is going to be you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. That is going to remain the same as 2014. Level 5 though, fast movement as well. Your speed increases by 10 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. Additionally, that is also the same. So level 6 is going to be your subclass feature. Level 7 is going to be Feral Instinct. Your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls. That is in the 2014 version. However, in 2014, they also had at the beginning of combat, and if you aren't incapacitated, you can act normally on your first turn, but only if you enter your rage before doing anything else in that turn. So they had a little bit extra to this feature in 2014, but I mean, I think that Wizards of the Coast just cut that out for simplicity because it was kind of a weird stipulation and it required you to rage first. It was kind of strange, and so I think that just cleaning it up, being you just have advantage on initiative rolls, I think works out pretty well. Level 7 Instinctive Pounce is going to be a newer version that they had introduced. As part of the bonus action, you take into your rage, you can move up to half your speed. Super awesome. Gives you a little bit more movement, gives you a little bit more maneuverability in terms of hitting that rage and then being able to kind of get where you need to go early on in combat. So super good there. Level 8 ability score improvement, same. Level 9 is going to be Brutal Strike. Now, Brutal Strike is actually replacing Brutal Critical. Brutal Critical was 2014. Brutal Critical is actually also in the Unearthed Arcana, but then I had watching some YouTube videos had seen that one of the finalized versions of the Barbarian for 2024, they had actually switched it to Brutal Strike. And so you can now choose to forego advantage on one of your strength-based attacks to make the attack a Brutal Strike. The saving throw DC for your Brutal Strike effect equals 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength modifier. On a hit, you deal an extra 1d10 damage and inflict one of the following effects. Forceful Blow, the target must succeed on a strength saving throw or be pushed 15 feet away from you. Crippling Blow, the target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or have its speed reduced by half until the start of your next turn. I love these. I love the fact that they gave kind of a maneuver-styled feature to the Barbarian. Super cool. Really lets you interact more with your foes. Really lets you kind of inflict status effects in a really kind of cool and unique way. Biggest difference that I did from the finalized version that WotC had pushed out was that I made it saving throws. I made it saving throws for the maneuvers because everything else, 98% of D&D, I would say effects that you can inflict upon another creature generally have a saving throw. And so to bring that kind of in line with everything else to make sure that it's kind of balanced and, you know, in tandem, I did add a saving throw that the creature could make in order to negate these, but still super cool and can, you know, and I think the 15-foot pushed away from you can actually, you know, cause some awesome mobility and awesome kind of interaction between creatures in combat where you can push them, move them maybe too closer to an ally, off a ledge, something like that. And of course, reducing speed is always super good in terms of negating mobility for the enemy. So Brutal Strike's awesome. Level 10 subclass feature. Of course, level 11 is going to be the Relentless Rage. Your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while your rage is active and don't die outright, you can make a DC 10 Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, your hit points instead change to a number equal to twice your Barbarian level. Each time you use this feature after the first, the DC increases by 5. When you finish a short or long rest, the DC resets to 10. Yes, so actually, a really awesome addition to this was the fact that you instead are dropped to a number of hit points equal to twice your Barbarian level instead of just 1. That kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility. You know, if you're on death's door, that you can actually get kind of back into the fight, heal a good amount to where you can at least take 1 or possibly 2 more hits before, you know, having to maybe potentially roll Relentless Rage again. But honestly, super good change. Kind of keeps you in the fight a lot longer. And so that's awesome. Level 12 ability score improvement unchanged. That's the same placement there. Level 13 is going to be the improved brutal strikes. You now can choose from 2 additional effects for when you hit a creature with the brutal strike. Staggering blow. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw or have disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes. Additionally, the target can't make opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. And then Sundering Blow. The target must succeed on a strength saving throw or the next attack made against it by another creature has a +5 to hit. Just increasing that pool of maneuvers that you can do as a Barbarian. Love that. Super awesome. Continuing on, level 14 subclass feature. And then level 15 is going to be the Persistent Rage. If you roll initiative and have no uses of rage remaining, you regain 1 expended use of it. In addition, your rage is so fierce that it now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to do anything to extend it from round to round. The rage ends early if you have the unconscious condition or don heavy armor. Persistent Rage is going to be... yeah, it's going to be pretty similar. It's going to be a little bit more... oh, actually. Yeah, they added in so that you get 1 rage regained whenever you roll initiative, which is awesome. Kind of keeps you being able to use your kind of main class ability for longer, especially if you've like run out already and you have a prolonged kind of duration of encounters, or you just can't quite get that short rest or long rest. And then, of course, similar to 2014, it just stays up. You don't need to actually maintain it using any of the previous stipulations. So that's really good. Level 16 is going to be the ability score improvement. Level 17 is going to be the improved brutal strike. The additional damage dealt by your brutal strike is increased to 2d10. So basically it makes your maneuvers even better because you can deal that additional damage. And that is actually going to be kind of in replacement because at 17th level... actually, I don't think you got anything at 17th level before. No, so yeah, your brutal critical die just increased at 17th, and so just kind of threw in there that your brutal strikes increase. And then Indomitable Might, if your total for a strength check or strength saving throw is less than your strength score, you can use that score in place of the total. That is going to be the exact same as 2014, which honestly, so awesome. Such a good just way to kind of just to make the Barbarian feel so just strong and powerful. So level 19 ability score improvement, of course, and then 20th level is going to be my kind of a mixture of Homebrew and kind of mixture of new and old class features that have already been in the game with a little bit of added stuff in there. So level 20 is going to be the Unrivaled Champion. You embody raw, unmatched power and resilience. You gain the following benefits: superior body. Your strength and constitution score increase by 4, and their maximum is now 24. That is actually going to be from one of the last kind of newest versions of the 2024 Barbarian. I kept that. That is super awesome. Really just, pushes the Barbarian even farther, pushes them outside that threshold of, like, I'd say normalcy. Now that you're breaking into just beyond the 20, the ability score cap of 20, now you're pushing beyond that, really just leaning into how strong and how hardy you are. Devastating critical. When you score a critical hit with a weapon using strength or unarmed strike, the target takes 2d12 extra damage of the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike. Essentially, that's just brutal critical. I didn't want to leave it out. I'm all for adding more to these classes, and so I actually just, kind of full circle brought that to the capstone there to just really make the Barbarian hit super hard there at the end game. Kind of in the final, capstone of D&D. And then Siege Frame is something that I added in. While in your rage, any damage that you deal with melee weapons or unarmed attacks against object or structures is doubled. I really liked the siege kind of mechanic for certain spells and for certain features, and I thought nothing, there's nothing cooler than being able to rage and then just like, smash through objects, smash through terrain, depending on, how much damage you're able to do. I just think that'd be really cool. It really makes the Barbarian this kind of menacing, hulking threat, and that's what it should be at 20th level. That's what the capstone should be. That's what all your hard work and dedication to the class should pay off to be. And so that is the capstone, and that is, a culmination of all of the of your long journey of being a barbarian. So yeah, honestly, like I said, Wizards of the Coast really did an awesome job in overhauling this class, adding in some new features, really revamping some of the old ones to make them even better, and then with a little bit of homebrew that I threw in there at the end, really kind of brings it all together to be this awesome force that to be reckoned with, and kind of gives a good blend of both a frontliner in combat, a tank in combat, there to to not only deal damage but to take damage, but then also has some now opened up features that allow them to just be able to excel at RP, which is a lot of fun, and just use rage in ways that you haven't been able to before. And so, but yeah, that's about the extent of the Barbarian here. If you like what you saw, feel more than free to go into the description and click on the link that'll bring you over to the Homebrew website, where you can go ahead and download this document. If you have any constructive feedback that things that you saw that you liked, or perhaps maybe some things that you think that could be tweaked to work out better, feel more than free to leave that in the comments section. And yeah, this is I really like where the Barbarian is. I think that they've definitely expanded the horizons in which that you can utilize this class, and so honestly, super awesome. But that is about it, and yeah, I guess I'll see you all in the next video.